It was a year ago this past April when Kathy Lueders officially was named manager of NASA's Commercial Crew Program. She spends a lot of time between the program office at the Kennedy Space Center and here at Johnson, as well as conducts frequent trips to locations for those companies developing human-rated spacecraft that will deliver crews to and from the International Space Station. We're pleased to have her in Houston and inside Mission Control to talk about the state of the Commercial Crew Program. A lot has happened in the past year, and we'd like to welcome you back, Kathy.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, from my vantage point, the last 12 to 14 months has been kind of a blur relative to the commercial crew activity. How fast has your first year gone by?
Has it been a year? Sometimes I feel like I'm in one of those Matrix movies where the time phasing is kind of messed up, and so I'm actually in Houston right now for a quarterly, and we've been kind of looking at all the things that have happened over this past year, and it's just amazing.
Well, of course, last fall, Boeing and SpaceX were named as the two companies that the program would put under contract to fly astronauts to and from the International Space Station. Your team hit the ground running once those contracts were announced, right?
Yeah, we had to. We were preparing all summer really to get through the award, and we're pleasantly surprised the agency was able to make awards because competition was very important for us. And with that investment, we knew that we as a program had to be ready to execute. And so the team had to gear up, staff up, and then be able to start moving out on our first milestones, which were the certification baseline reviews. Then from there, obviously the companies are off and running, and so we've been frantically working with them on their key certification products while they're really doing the tough job of starting to get their hardware moving. And so both Boeing went ahead and started put money down on their first two launch vehicles to get ready for their uncrewed mission and their crewed flight test. Very exciting to start seeing tail numbers.
Those are long lead items too, obviously.
Yeah, long lead items. So the United Launch Alliance is getting ready. Already those vehicles are starting to be developed and processed in their Decatur facility. In addition, SpaceX has been working frantically on getting their design solidified and moving towards their CDR timeframe, which will be happening in the fall, and then moving out on executing on their uncrewed mission and their crewed flight test. So very exciting times for us.
Obviously, SpaceX, as you mentioned, is one of those companies. The Commercial Crew is under several different phases. Of course, there are technical terms for that, but they just completed a fairly big milestone, the spectacular and fast pad abort test. Describe the importance of that milestone under the previous phase of the program as it relates to ensuring astronaut safety for flight.
So, the pad abort, or really the abort feature for these crewed vehicles, has been a feature that not only our commercial crew vehicles have, but obviously Orion has too. It's an additional feature that's been a requirement for crewed test flight that had been there previously and under the previous programs, but was used in a different way during the shuttle program. And so SpaceX, during their SAA milestones, in their unique way, had decided that they wanted to use their SAA milestones as a way to prove out that capability. And so we were fortunate enough to have that. They were able to go ahead and do that test. And when you look at it, it was short test, like you said, from engine ignition to splashdown, 2 minutes. But what it showed is that if you have a problem out on the pad, the crew is able to safely get away from that problem in a very quick period of time. And their, I don't want to say immature, but not as mature design was able to successfully deliver that capability to us. So a real kudos for SpaceX for at that development phase for that vehicle to be able to accomplish what's a very, very, very tough job.
Well, these two companies, Boeing and SpaceX, obviously working on their separate spacecraft and integrated rocket designs, but earlier this year, or I guess it was this year, yeah, back in March, February and March, we conducted, or this team conducted, 3 spacewalks with the crew on orbit, and they were directly related to commercial crew by setting the stage for the delivery of the first of 2 docking adapters. Talk about how the IDAs, as they're called, International Docking Adapters, are now showing that we're not only the program working separately, but it's actually now integrated with the space station real-time flight control team and the crew on orbit.
I think people forget that it's not just us getting the commercial crew vehicles ready. It's really Station had to make the first major modification to its overall architecture since really assembly, right? To be able to enable the commercial crew vehicles to come. So tremendous effort to be able to integrate the comm systems and the docking systems that are really required for these vehicles to be able to come up and dock with the International Space Station. What my favorite part of the story is really that the 2 companies that are working on the commercial crew vehicles are the same companies that are making that happen. So it's just so much fun for me to be able to see that Boeing designed the docking adapters, and SpaceX is going to be flying the hardware that Boeing developed up to the International Space Station coming up in a couple of weeks. So actually next week. So a very, very exciting time, and really shows the total collaborative effort that's required to make this happen.
And while all of that is going on, obviously the program is continuing to work and support 2 other companies, Blue Origin and Sierra Nevada, through some Space Act agreements. And what's new with the work that they're doing and what we're doing to work with those companies?
So one of my favorite parts of being in this program is also being able to have the ability to work with a diverse set of companies. And I think our team really learns from the progress that they're making out there on their own to develop their crew capabilities. And so it's been very fun to see Blue Origin really emerging with the work that we've been doing with them on their engine development, now emerging as a player in this new Vulcan, launch vehicle strategy. Huge benefit, starting to show the benefit of the collaborations that we've been building on over the last few years. And Sierra, they have been slogging away and working so hard to get ready for their second drop test with us. And so what's phenomenal is their vehicles really coming together now and making tremendous progress. And we are really looking forward to the work and effort working towards their second drop test that's be coming up at the end of this year.
Pretty exciting. What may not be as exciting but as important probably, and you can describe this, is here on the ground at Kennedy and across the bay there at the Cape Canaveral Air Force Station. There's infrastructure work going on that is as vital probably, if not equal to the other activity that's going on for the rocket development.
Yeah, the last time I came and talked to you, we talked about how after shuttle retirement, how it was kind of sad to see those pads empty. And what's amazing right now is that those pads aren't empty anymore. You've got 39A. SpaceX has just done a phenomenal job erecting a 300-foot horizontal integration facility, starting to build the major pieces and components of their new Falcon Heavy capability and the new Falcon capability that will be flying our vehicles to. And so when you see that all coming back up again, along with the Orion work, along with going over and looking at Launch Complex 41 and seeing the crew access capabilities coming in and starting to see the tower being built in the middle of, and honestly, ULA's done a phenomenal job figuring out how to do that in between their whole launch campaigns that they're doing. You realize that in the 2017-2018 timeframe, there's going to be 3 human spaceflight capabilities at the Kennedy Space Center. Never before in history will that have happened, and this is just going to be a phenomenal achievement for the aerospace industry in the United States as a whole.
Well, it's very exciting, and Kathy, we really appreciate you taking some time out from your meetings to come over and talk to us and give us a progress report. A year to 12 to 14 months after you came on board, that just shows how much work it has been done, and we really appreciate you stopping by.
I appreciate you letting me come over and talk to you, Kyle.
Kathy Lueders, the manager of the Commercial Crew Program for NASA.